Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yasura Nandana Bhajanda Ranjana Yasura Nandana Bhajanda Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yasura Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yasura Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramu Hare Ramu 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Bharvajakacharya Asatara Sata Shri Srimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakuti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Bremsakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Vyadvaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. And all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text number 30, entitled, The Prayers of Queen Kunti. Janma karma cha vishvatman ajasya kartur atmanaha tiryanishishu yadasu tad adyanta vidambanam janma karma cha vishvatman ajasya kartur atmanaha tiryanishishu yadasu tad adyanta vidambanam janma karma cha vishvatman ajasa kartur atmana tiryanishishu yadasu tad adyanta vidambanam. Please chant. Manam. Ajasya kartu atmanaha tiranyanishishu yadasu tadvyatnyanta vidambanam. Come on, don't be shy. Oh, it's not on the board. I'm sorry. My apologies to all of you. Okay, well, I don't expect you to have it memorized for today. So, you have it? Okay, please do. Janma karma chivanvasyam. Atmanaha tiryanishishu yadasu tad atyanta vidambanam janma karma cha vishvatman ajasyak tukturanatmana Tiryan Shishu Yadahashu Tad Atyanta Vidambanam. Tad Atyanta Vidambanam. Any other cell phones available? This is a wonderful example of how material technology can be beneficial. When one bit of technology goes out, we bring in another technology to come in and fortify or replace what was lost. So actually technology, when used in the loving service of Krishna, is excellent and should not be condemned as something evil. As sometimes in different religions, I sometimes hear, oh, this material world, it's terrible, it's evil, it's full of miseries, but it also has some useful things when used in the loving service of Krishna, as we have just seen now. So that's how matter can be thought of as not a curse, but really a blessing when used for Krishna, in the service of Krishna. Okay. Word by word. Janma, birth. Karma, activity. Cha, and. Vishva Atman, O soul of the universe. Ajasya, of the unborn. Akartuhu, I'll say that in Akartuhu, of the inactive. Atmanaha, of the vital energy. Tiryak, animal. Nur, human being. Vishishu, in the sages. Yadasu, in the water. Tat, that. Atyanta, veritable. Vidambanam, bewildering. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So here we have Queen Kunti. She's speaking at a time when Lord Krishna is about to leave I believe it's the Kurukshetra area. He's finished his business, but before he goes, she wants to express her great gratitude, her great appreciation, her great sentiment and feeling for what he has done for her and her sons, her family. So this is a mark or symptom of a great pure devotee. They never take anything for granted. Everything is taken, and not with a grain of salt. Anything taken from any great soul or any devotee is taken very seriously as a gift from the Supreme Lord, and therefore is expressed with appreciation as something that if it did not happen, his or her life would be less or not as good. And so that's what Kunti is in effect saying. She's expressing that by your being here, by your grace, by your help, by all this, we have lived through so much and we have grown so much spiritually, and we are so fortunate. And this is the way we all have to be thinking in terms of when we receive different gifts from devotees, whether they are expensive gifts or inexpensive gifts. The main thing is the heart feeling that goes into the giving of the gifts. It's like when Sudama Brahman, as I mentioned a few days ago, he gave this gift to Krishna was just some chipped rice, which he didn't want to give because it was beneath the status of Krishna. Krishna deserved, a big opulent feast. That's what he wanted to give, but he didn't have it. Nonetheless, Krishna grabbed that rice from under his armpit and opened it up and began eating it, and it kept saying, "Oh, this is so delicious, so wonderful." But Lakshmi didn't like the idea that he was eating something, practically tasteless. But Krishna was enjoying something that Lakshmi was not obviously understanding or knowing that he was enjoying, because he was enjoying the love with which Sudama Brahman had carried that rice with him for such a long distance. And he was carrying it with such love in his heart. So therefore, it was not the normal or ordinary taste of chipped rice that Krishna was tasting. It was the love, the bhakti, the complete surrender that Sudama Brahman had, that was in the rice, that tasted so delicious. So when he went for the second morsel to take another, Lakshmi, she stopped his hand. She wouldn't let him take any more. So Krishna looked at her. She said, "No." She says, "I am in such debt to this Sudaman Brahman that if you take another morsel, my debt will be so astronomical, I'll never be able to pay him back. So please spare me." So that's what she's feeling. And of course, when we get to the end of that story, we see how she has, in some part, repaid the debt with this gigantic palace that she built just with her will for Sudaman Brahman when he came back to what he thought would be just an old, broken down bungalow. And yet it was a palace. That was how she repaid, and so many other things were there. So I'm simply mentioning this. Of course, I'm reading now. Of course it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but also apparently contradictory. And this is what Kunti is pointing out in this verse. How they are so contradictory. On the one hand, he's active. On the other hand, he's inactive. On one hand, he doesn't take birth. In another case, he takes birth. So all these different ironies, if you will, are there. And basically, what she is doing is she is expressing her incredible awe and reverence and appreciation of his greatness, of his glory, that there is no one, there is nothing like him. He is one and only one like him, just himself. No one can compare to him. No one is equal to him. No one can be better than him, and therefore we should not try to figure him out. He, on the other hand, if he wants us to understand him more, can reveal himself through the heart and give us some realization of him in greater degree than is even given in the Vedas. So, purport, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but are also apparently contradictory. In other words, they are all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the human being. The Lord is the all-prevailing supersoul of all existence. So for those of you who may be new, supersoul is the Supreme Lord in his form in which he lives in our heart, and he lives in every atom of creation. It is the form in which he is present everywhere, as we say, omnipresent. This is supersoul. And for those who are very advanced, can see supersoul anywhere and everywhere because they have eyes to see supersoul, and that vision has been granted by the grace of the Lord. The Lord is all-prevailing supersoul of all existence, and yet he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals. in the form of a human being as Ram, Krishna, etc., in the form of a rishi like Narayan, and in the form of an aquatic like a fish. This is inconceivable to an ordinary person, even to an ordinary religious person. If you say to, for example, to some Christian, you say, by the way, the Lord has the form of a boar, they will think that you're creating blasphemy. Boar? The Lord? A hog? God? No way. Or a fish? Come on, get off it. So they will be thinking because their horizon or their understanding is very limited. It's like limited to a little box, and that's all they know about God, which is okay. But in these teachings, God, Krishna, is known to a very much greater extent than is normally understood. So he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals. Yet it is said that he is unborn, and he has nothing to do. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that the Supreme Brahman has nothing to do. No one is equal to or greater than him. He has manifold energies, and everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge. Automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove without any question that the Lord's activities, his forms, and his deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power. And because he is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. Therefore, no one can calculate him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge, but he can be easily understood by the pure devotees because they are intimately related with him. And therefore Krishna shares that knowledge with them. And to them it is not a big surprise. It is not a big wonder. It is not a big question. Because when Krishna reveals something to us, then we know that's the fact, that's the truth. The devotees therefore know that although he appears amongst the animals, he is not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He is eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances and can appear any which way he wants, in any form he wants. That is why in our understanding we worship the deity, which is in a marble form, but every atom of the marble is interpenetrated with pure spirit. And therefore, the devotee sees it not as marble, but as pure spirit, because as I said, every atom is interpenetrated with the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul. And the pure devotee, having a realization of Super Soul, can therefore relate to the deity, whether on the altar, whether on a painting, whether in a picture of some sort, can relate to the deity as a person and not as a inanimate object. This is very wonderful. It's actually quite amazing that our vision can go from seeing the deity from a marble form to an actual living form. Although the form is still marble, but that's not what the deity, the devotee is seeing. The devotee is seeing a living person with whom he is interacting and relating. Amagyana timidandasya gananjana shalakaya chakshur unmaditam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. as I already mentioned, we see that we can never really understand Krishna in total. We can only understand him to the extent that he allows us to understand. As I was just mentioning, that a pure devotee will see the deity as a living form, which can, if it wants to, just to walk off the altar and start dancing. And in some cases, that has happened. Not in this temple. I wish it did. You'd see thousands of people lined up outside if it did. But the fact is that the deity can do that. And there have been many examples in our Shastras in which the Lord actually became animately manifest and began dancing on the altar and then went back to doing just what he normally does. Again, this shows that we cannot limit the Lord to any fixed position. You cannot put him in a box and say this is his length, his width, his circumference. Just like Vamanadev, they thought that he was just a little dwarf. And what did he turn out to be? The giant of giants. He took 2 steps and he was covering not only this universe, but all the universes right up to the spiritual world. So therefore, this should always be filling us. Although we see him as in a human form, we have to always remember to not be tricked or deluded or deceived that this human form makes him into a human being. He only looks like a human being. And that's for our benefit, so that we can relate to him. We can connect with him. We can have relationships with him. Like we see in Vrindavan, the cowherd boys, they're playing with Krishna. And although Krishna is the power of all powers in the universe, the cowherd boys, they're playing, in the pasturing grounds. They have these little sticks, and they're dueling. They're playing duel, like little boys do. They use the stick like a sword. And so the boy who hits the other boy in the chest, he wins. And the boy who got hit in the chest, he loses, and he has to carry the loser on his shoulder. So this is what poor Krishna had to do. He lost so many little battles there. He was holding up the universe. He was the power of powers, the Lord of lords, whom no one can ever even begin to imagine how great he is. He lost the bout. He lost the fight to his little cowherd boy. So, and Krishna is getting a lot of fun out of this. We should not think that, he's just putting on a little show. He enjoys this. He knows who he is, on the one hand, that he's the Lord of the universe, and he's enjoying being defeated, because that's so ironic. How can the Lord ever be defeated? He can't. But in this particular pastime, the boys actually are thinking they're defeating him, and Krishna is having a lot of fun. He's enjoying watching them feel that they are the conquerors. So one may ask, how could they think that? How could they think this? After all, they have seen Krishna defeat the Bakasura demon. You have to be very powerful to defeat him. He was a big giant bird, with the long beaks. And so the Bakasura gobbled him up and swallowed him. And then Krishna made himself very hot. And the Bakasura, he vomited him out. But that was not the end. When the Bakasura tried to grab him again, Krishna grabbed the 2 beaks and he bifurcated them. He tore them apart. And the little boys were watching, wow, because they don't think that Krishna is so strong and powerful and big and great and magnificent. He's just another one of us. But sometimes, on occasion, Krishna demonstrates or manifests for purposes because he's come to destroy the demons. Wherever there's a decline of religious practice and a predominant rise of a religion, at that time Krishna says, I descend myself to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. So therefore he didn't want his little cowherd boys to be harmed or affected or disturbed or shaken. So he tore that Bakasura apart. He's just a little boy, and Bakasura is maybe 10 times, 15 times bigger. So the little boys, how could they forget this? They're fighting with Krishna in total forgetfulness of how powerful he really is. That's due to Krishna's special mercy in rasa. Rasa means it's a specific mood, it's a specific feeling that a devotee has towards Krishna. He may feel that he's a child, he may feel he's a parent, he may feel that he's a servant, may feel he's a friend. And then he may feel he's a little young friend or an older friend, like Arjuna is an older friend, and some of Sudama and Sridhar were younger friends. So all in all, Krishna, what he does is he makes his great devotees forget his real position. But here Kunti, she's expressing her understanding. I understand this. We cannot limit you. We cannot confine you. We cannot even define you. You're beyond all description, all conception. All we can do is throw ourselves at your lotus feet and beg for your mercy that you will allow us to serve you. And in so serving you through this devotional method, we will gradually become purer and be able to better connect with you, better relate to you, better serve you, better honor you, better glorify you, and better celebrate you. That's all the devotee wants to do. And Krishna works with the devotees in each and every one of their own specific rasa. Mother Yashoda, she's like his mother. And she doesn't think of herself as anything else but mother, even though she had the opportunity to see the universal form in Krishna's mouth. But again, he caused her to forget that experience so that she could go on with this loving, sweet, generous, kind, huggable relationship. So in the same with all of the different residents of Vrindavan, they all have relationships with Krishna, and Krishna makes sure that they are intact so that they can continue to experience the ecstasy that comes from such loving service to Krishna. Confirmed. So, therefore, loving service they have to Krishna, and that's what it's all about. That's what the spiritual world is about. It's an endless place of love, devotion, fun, games, romance, but all for the glorification, all for the honor, all for the pleasure of Lord Sri Krishna. That's what it is. That's what we all have to be striving for. About 2-3 days ago, when Brigupati was giving a class, I had posed the question, and perhaps it was rather late, as to because he had used in his class the term, and Srila Prabhupada uses the term, pure devotee, again and again and again and again. And I asked him to please define it so that we would all have a clear understanding of what is a pure devotee. And therefore, when we hear the word, it should ring in our mind as to what it connotes, what it means. So he gave that verse, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he walk, and how does he sit? And I don't remember whether he gave the answer that Krishna gave. Did you get to the answer, Bhigupati? I don't remember that. Okay. Anyway, when after that's asked, and Krishna answers them, when a man gives up all varieties of sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind thus purified finds complete satisfaction in the self, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So his joy, his happiness, his satisfaction, his fulfillment is all within the heart. in connection with, in relation to Krishna. One who is not connected with the Supreme Lord in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So, the point that we have here in that very wonderful verse is that the pure devotee is always feeling happiness within himself. First of all, devotee. What is a devotee? A devotee is one who's dedicated completely to the supreme, to the service of the Supreme Lord. And in such a dedication, he devotes himself unswervingly and completely, in total surrender, in complete submission. So a pure devotee, for us to understand, is that there is no material desires. Okay, this is the most important thing. A pure devotee has no material desires. He doesn't desire to or aspire to be a big movie star or big lawyer or president of the United States or anywhere. He doesn't aspire to be big anything. All he aspires to do is to serve Krishna well, to serve him sweetly, to serve him artistically, to serve him in such a way that Krishna will gain or obtain the maximum pleasure. So this is what pure devotee is all about. He doesn't have personal ambition. He doesn't try to be better, bigger, greater, higher than anyone else. He doesn't care about being superior. If someone calls him a fool or her a fool, a person will say, well, who told you? How'd you guess? His position is not that, me, a fool? How can you call me a fool? I have so much position, I have so much prestige, I have so much honor, I have so much glory, and you call me a fool? Doesn't act like that. That is a person who's in the mode of passion, and maybe even a little of the mode of goodness. It's tempered with pride and arrogance and vanity. So when a person has no false pride, he doesn't think he's great, he doesn't think he's wonderful, he doesn't think he's glorious, he simply thinks of what? What did Lord Chaitanya consider himself? How did he define himself? I'm not a Brahmin. And he says, I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Vanaprastha, I'm not a brahmachari, and I'm not excuse me, let's start from the beginning. I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, excuse me, not Kshatriya, no, I'm not a Brahmin, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, and I'm not a Shudra. He says also, I'm not a Brahmana, excuse me, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a Vanaprastha, and I'm not a Grahasta, or householder, and I'm not a brahmachari. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord of the gopis. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant. So his position was one of servant. And even when persons would call him the Supreme Lord, they would say he's the cause of all causes. Sometimes he would angrily, in mock anger, tell him, I'm not the Supreme Personality of God. I'm just a servant, just like you are. And he wanted to be regarded that way simply because it enabled him to teach what a devotee is like by example, by his illustration, by what he would do, what he would say, what he would think, and what he would express. So, therefore, this is a very important point that the Lord was playing the part in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a devotee, and giving us an example of how we should act as devotees. At times he could be very extremely strict, and at other times he could be very light and loose and amiable, friendly, and joking too. So that is the idea in this particular point. So therefore, coming back to the point, pure devotee means that he doesn't have any other desire than to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, to honor Krishna, to worship Krishna, to glorify Krishna, to bow down to Krishna, to praise Krishna. This is the desire of a pure devotee. He never wants to speak about anything but Krishna. Sometimes people engage me. I try to follow this instruction sometimes. Most of the time I don't. But I try to follow it. Somebody wants to engage me in some talk, about, for example, what do you think of this Ritvik system? So I generally say, I think you have to ask somebody else, because I only have 5 minutes to live. Okay? And in those 5 minutes, I just want to hear about Krishna. So you want to talk to me about Krishna in these 5 minutes, I'm all yours. But if you want to talk to me about that, which has absolutely nothing to do with where I want to go when I leave this body, then please breeze off. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So they kind of look at me with a certain amount of, what? You don't want to talk philosophy? Not that kind. You want to talk about Krishna's philosophy? You're not the body? Come on, I'm ready. You want to talk about how glorious Krishna is? You want to talk about all these things that Kunti is talking about? Fine, please, lay it on. I'm all yours. But if you want to engage me in this kind of talk, which will just cause me headaches all night, and I'll not even get up for the morning program, which I'm having problems doing as it is, as most of you may already know. So that's the important point, to keep the mind on Krishna. So sometimes devotees tell me, well, I have a job, I sit at a computer, or I dig dishes, or I have to, or I sing for a living, or I might be a salesperson, or I'm a customer service person on Amazon.com, or one of the, so he said, I have these, how can I think of Krishna? I said, well, you have to figure out different ways in which you can remember Krishna. So they asked me, well, how do you remember Krishna? How can you remember him? We're doing some particular work. I'm selling something to a person, okay? Or I'm teaching something to a person. Or I'm explaining something. Or I'm reading something. How can I remember Krishna then? Or I'm at my computer. So that's a challenge to each and every one of us. It is a challenge. And those who not only meet the challenge, but actually not only meet it, but actually win the challenge, will go back home, back to Godhead. And we need to actually figure out different ways. For example, what I used to do for years, I had the letter K. I wrote it with a pen every morning. So whenever I would look at my watch, I would see this K, which meant Krishna. And so I would at least a few times a day, whenever I looked at my watch, I would remember Krishna. Fortunately, as time went on, I became a little bit more attached to Krishna, and I was also watching my watch more because I became more aware of the fact that I'm going to die one of these moments. So I looked at my watch and I saw a K. So several weeks ago, this was on my wrist, for at least, for 30 years I would always have this. So therefore I would remember Krishna. And that's a way they can do it. Most devotees don't want to write anything on their wrist for whatever reason. That's their business. I don't tell them they should do it. But it's another way to remember Krishna. Because the tendency is to forget Krishna and remember ourselves. Because we've come into this world to be lords, to be big shots, to be controllers, to be directors and dictators, to feel that we are lords. That's why we came here. So therefore, it's only natural that we remember ourselves. When we hear our names said or called, we feel good because that's me. I, my, mine. That's our chief focus and our chief meditation. But that has to be weaned. It has to be taken away. It has to be withdrawn. And the way we can withdraw it, as I said, by different cues, different signs, different ways. For example, if you come to this temple, you're across the street and you see the Sudarshan chakra. Ah, there's my protector. There's Krishna's weapon protecting me. And I'm remembering at that point that wonderful pastime of King Ambarish, how the yogi Durvasa tried to kill him. And that Sudarshan chakra came. So I immediately remember a whole pastime right there. And how the Sudarshan chakra chased after that particular yogi and was going to kill him until he found out from Lord Vishnu how he could escape through the process of apologizing for what he had tried to do to King Ambarish. He tried to kill him. So he apologized to him. He recognized he knew nothing about really anything high or devotional or great compared to the king who had endless, numerous duties to perform day in and day out. But he managed to remember Krishna. Why? How? Because he would go to the temple every morning, offer flowers. He would recite mantras. He would pray to the Lord. He would worship the Lord. He would have a friendly association with the Lord. So all of these that he did was a means by which he would remember the Lord in spite of having numerous duties to fulfill in the kingdom, to keep it running smoothly, to keep it running nicely. So we can do the same. We don't have even a fraction of the duties, the fraction of the activities, the fraction of the problems that King Ambarish had. We don't have anything compared to him. And yet he was always able to remember Krishna. And when the yogi, when they tried to kill him, what was the response of King Ambarish? He didn't say, no, please, spare me. I'm really a good guy. You know, he didn't do that. He didn't ask for help. He didn't ask for compassion. He didn't say mercy. All he did is he put his palms together. He closed his eyes. And in his mind, he was thinking, my dear Lord, if this is what you want me to receive, I accept this because you know what is best for me. And if what is best for me to be killed now, then so be it. Let me die. Same thing with King Pariksit. He wasn't upset. These are the great devotees. They know that Krishna is following them, helping them, guiding them, directing them. And so what comes to them, they know this has been caused by the Lord's mercy. So why should one say to somebody, no, when the Lord has given the mercy? So this is all very important, that in the course of becoming pure devotees, it is a gradual process. Generally, a pure devotee is very humble, like Rupa Goswami. He was very, very humble. I'll give you an example. Sanatan Goswami. Here is how a great devotee who has everything, here's how he speaks. Sanatan Goswami then brought forward, he was talking to, Sanatan Goswami then brought forward his inquiries about spiritual life. Falling down at the feet of the Lord Chaitanya, with great humility, he asked about his own identity. And he says, I have been born of a low family, and my associations are abominable, because he was associating with Muslims, you see, all for many, many years. I am the most fallen and wretched of men, suffering in the dark well of material enjoyment. I never knew the actual goal of my life. I do not know what is beneficial for me. Although in the mundane sphere I am known as a greatly learned man, I am in fact so much of a fool that I even accept that I am learned. You have accepted me as your servant and delivered me from the entanglement of material life. Now please tell me what is my duty in this liberated stage of life. So he's not determining it for himself. He's asking the Lord, tell me what you would like me to do. And of course, the Lord does tell him what he does, and that's why we have all these wonderful, great books written by Sanatan Goswami. So humility is one of the chief characteristics of a pure devotee. He never thinks highly of himself, and when others glorify him in his own heart, he feels, they got it wrong. He sees one little tiny error of his life, and he blows it up to such elephantine degrees that that's what he thinks of himself. So therefore, he never gets proud. When he thinks of himself as small, insignificant, worthless, useless, therefore, where is the opportunity for pride? When people praise him and honor him and glorify him in his heart, he says, not me. This belongs to my spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. So he's empty of the pride. And that's what we all have to do. As soon as anybody praises us or glorifies us, honors us, pats our back, externally, one can accept these things graciously as coming as love from Krishna through a devotee, but inwardly we give them back to the spiritual master and to the Lord. Are there any questions or comments that any of you would like to make on any of these points that I made? Any corrections that you'd like to make? And I do make mistakes. So please, yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, we can get the mic if it's working today, I hope. I saw somebody go in that direction, but I don't know if he went for the microphone. Is there a microphone today so that all our listeners over the internet hear? Yeah. Oh, somebody is going to get the mic, so please don't turn off your computer yet. Come on, this should be an assignment. Somebody should be assigned to do this. Let me just say something about devotional service because it gives me an opportunity right now. You see, everyone sitting here, as soon as I ask for questions or anyone asks for questions, should be ready to get up and run for the microphone for the benefit of everyone here and over the internet. But everyone is just sitting. No, you do it. No, you do it. This is not the spontaneous devotional attitude. Please. I immediately start looking and nobody's going. I don't know where it is and I don't even know how to work it. But those of us who do know how to work it, know where it is, should get up and get it for the benefit. That's what devotional service is all about. It's not waiting to be told. It's not waiting to be told or ordered. It's an attitude of, what's my next chore? Oh, there it is. It's a piece of paper on the ground here. I don't want Krishna to see this piece of trash. You take it, put it in your pocket until you get outside and then throw it in the trash can. It does, that's not my job. That's not my job. No. I don't do that. I don't pick up paper. No, that's not devotee. Devotee does anything and everything that's necessary at any given moment. Okay? That capsulizes today's class. Yes, Guru, go ahead.
You talked about when we're praised. I said you talked about how when we're praised or glorified, we should give it back to the spiritual master and Krishna.
What is that?
I said, you talked about how when we are glorified or praised, we should give it back to the spiritual master or Krishna. Would it be appropriate to offer it to the assembly of Vaishnavas as well?
If you want to, there's no harm to do that, but it's not required. Because all these great powers that come to us, whether they come through speech, or whether they come through our body, or whether they come through miracles, they come from God and also the spiritual master. They come from the combination of those two. So we show our reverence and appreciation and gratitude to them because they are the ones that have helped to make it happen. You can always offer your respects and your honor and glorifications to all Vaishnavas, that there's no ban to that. But for this particular purpose, so that we do not acquire the pride that comes from feeling that I'm bigger, I'm better, I'm greater, I'm higher, and you don't want to feel that. You get rid of it. Therefore, you're empty. Once you get rid of something, for example, if I've got $10 in my pocket and I put it in your pocket, I'm empty. So if somebody comes and says, can I hit you up for $5? I says, I don't even have one. You don't have any money? No, I gave it away to him. So go ask him. But he already gave it away to somebody else, because that's what devotional service is. You give, 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 give. And when you actually have nothing, you have everything, because that's what real love is. Krishna gives you everything, even though you think you have nothing, but you see you have everything by virtue of what happens. Does that answer your question for me? Is there any other question that, any comment that any of you would like to make? It's welcome. Come on, Sachitanoy, you're the Mr. Commentator in this place. No, not today? All right, everybody's giving me a break today. Thanks so much. I appreciate your attendance. All glories to your service. And please pray for me that I don't fall down. Hare Krishna.